Hello everyone. So I am a big fan of Merit lipsticks, and so I was really happy to find out that they have come out with a new shade. So this is called Ginger, and it is described as a soft peach, and this is part of their satin lipstick line. So it is the line that is a little bit softer and feels like a lip balm on my lips. So in this video, what I will be doing is first talking about the new lipstick and swatching it in comparison to some other lipsticks that I have in my collection. And then I will be using this in the context of a quick 5-minute makeup look of the kind that I use every day. I will be using all Merit products for that. And then also I actually have all 18 of the Merit lipsticks, both satins and mattes. And so toward the end of the video, I will insert some footage of me trying on all 18 of these lipsticks so you can see what they look like on my lips. So first, a little bit of information about me. I'm 59 years old and I have dry and sensitive skin. And over the past 3 years, I've tried more than 1,000 makeup products. So I have a pretty good basics of a comparison for everything that I use. And one thing that I have found out is that there are an awfully lot of ingredients that do irritate my skin. And I know that those are irritating for many other people as well. So therefore, I just don't talk about products with those ingredients on this channel. And usually I do lean towards makeup looks that are only 5 minutes or so, or at most 10 minutes. And so that is also the kind of makeup look that I tend to talk about on this channel. And for both of those reasons, I think that Merit has been a really terrific brand for me. So it's really designed as the kind of makeup that you can put on really fast, and that's not going to take much time, and that's going to be pretty foolproof. And also it has quite clean ingredient lists, and I have done perfectly fine in terms of not being irritated by it. And in general, I think that it has performed really, really well for me and created a lot of really nice makeup looks. So first I thought I'd talk just a little bit about the satin lipstick formula from Merit. So this was introduced in the beginning of 2022, and there are 8 shades in this lipstick, and I have really liked them for a number of reasons. First of all, they do feel to me like it's just really putting a lip balm on my lips. They're just a tiny bit sticky so that they stay in place really easily, and they go on really nicely, but they do taste really good, and they actually look a little bit like real lipsticks to me. So there are some colors that are a little bit darker, and then there's quite a few of them that really have kind of a neutral look. And the one that I'm wearing now, the ginger one, that one also I think has a fairly neutral look to it. And I think the ingredient list is really good for these. I am really picky about lipsticks, and an awfully lot of them have flavoring ingredients in them, or fragrance, or other ingredients that really make me not want to use them at all, or they don't look good on my lips. In this case, I think that the formula is really good. Now, these do list flavor on the ingredients, but when I asked the people at Merit about that, they told me that the flavoring was just raspberry seed oil. And I do believe that it does taste a little bit like raspberry oil. And I think that this is a very nice flavor that is not annoying to me at all. So these are pretty soft, and so I don't think that there's a lot of guarantee that they're never going to break. There have been certain ones, such as the slip one at one point, where a lot of them did break for a lot of different people. Other than that one, I think that these have really held up really well for me in terms of my lipstick collection, all of the ones that I've used in the past. There have been some that have broken, but it has been more than 6 months, and I have been able to continue to use them despite their breaking on me. And by the way, when lipsticks break for me all the way at the base, then what I tend to do is just remove the lipstick from the container and dig out the extra product from the base and put that product in a little container of some kind so I can use it with my fingers. And then I will just press the lipstick really firmly back into the base. And the lipstick will seem shorter then, but it's really, it works exactly the same as if it had never been broken. So at least that is one good thing that I have figured out how to do. Now, another thing that I really like about these lipsticks is that they tend to be kind of on the muted side. So compared to an awfully lot of lipsticks or even tinted lip balms, They tend to not have a lot of pigment in them, and they almost seem to have a little bit of grayishness to them. And so I tend to have a really kind of muted complexion, and I think that I'm somewhere between maybe a soft autumn or maybe even a little bit of a soft summer. And so colors that are too bright and too pigmented tend not to work all that well on me. But these are lipsticks that I think that regardless of which colors they are, they tend to look really, really pretty on my lips, and that I can pull them off. So I'm really happy about that. And that is another reason that I like them so much. So Merit has been selling 8 shades of the satin lipsticks on their website and on the Sephora website. And then this ginger shade will be the 9th shade. And this one, I'm not sure if it's going to be sold at Sephora or not. It's not yet on the Sephora website, so we will see if that comes to Sephora. Sometimes these brands keep certain shades and just sell them on their own websites. And then in addition, I have a shade that's called Aperitif, and this one is a kind of a neutral red, a cherry red type of a shade. And this one was available, I think, at the end of 2022, just as part of a Christmas collection, and then it was available last summer individually, and it sold out really fast. And for some reason, Merit has decided so far that they haven't brought it back on the market. What they said was that they had wanted to use that in their matte collection, this same sort of a shade. And I think that's fine, but I don't think that comes across the same to me at all. It is the same tone or undertone, but in terms of how dark it is, when it's in a matte shade, it comes across as much, much brighter, and it kind of overwhelms my face. Whereas the thing I liked about this one was that it was a much more sheer red, and it seemed a little bit more neutral, and so therefore I was able to pull it off a little bit better with my soft complexion. And I think there's a lot of other people that were really big fans of that lipstick, so I'm still really hoping that they will bring it back, and so I try to talk about it when I can so that other people will be interested in it too, and maybe let Merit know about that. And then just a couple of months ago, Merit came out with 8 new lipsticks, and these are what they are calling their matte lipsticks. But they are really very much more like a kind of a cream lipstick. They're much more creamy, and they feel really good on the lips. They don't look shiny, but they do feel like they are really a very moisturizing formula that I can wear really easily. And they don't feel dry, and they don't feel like I need to put on lip balm under them or a gloss over them. They hold up really well on their own. They are really wearable colors, and they're a little brighter than the satin lipsticks from Merit, but they are really, really pretty. And I think that I have been able to wear all of them fairly successfully and without their overwhelming my look. So this new ginger shade is being associated with a campaign featuring Grace Coddington, who was the long-term art director for Vogue magazine, and who still seems to be pretty busy considering that she's now in her 80s. And she has red hair, so therefore that makes her a ginger. And I think that the lipstick does look nice on her. And I think that this is a very pretty shade. It is quite muted. And in terms of the color, they have said that they were basing it on the Beverly Hills shade of their blush, but when I swatched it in comparison to the Beverly Hills shade and some of the other blush shades, it really looks to me really more like Fox, which is supposed to be a warm taupe, and which is another color that I like a lot. Now the Beverly Hills shade, that one looks a little bit more pink to me, but I think that both of those shades are complementary, and I did use both of those blush shades in my makeup look today, and I do think that both of them go nicely with this lipstick, but I think the lipstick is more like the Fox shade. And this lipstick, I think, is also very much like this shade of the lip oil, which is called Marrakesh, which is described as a soft peach. And I have been using this lip oil quite a bit, and I've gone through an entire container of this, and I purchased another one, so it's pretty rare for me to finish up a makeup, but I really do like this particular shade, and I like this particular product. So the idea that they made this into a lip stick, this is actually a good thing for me. And then the other product from Merit that this is very, very similar to is the lipstick that is in the matte line, which is called Antibes. And this is also described as a soft peach. And I do think that it's a very, very similar shade. I just think that this is a more saturated shade, and obviously it's a little bit more matte. And the new ginger one comes across as much more muted because it is lower in saturation, and it's just a little bit more sheer. And then the other lipstick that I think is really similar is Tiger. Now, Tiger is a much darker shade, but I think that if I put it on and then kind of blot it off a little bit or just put on a tiny little bit of it, it's a very, very close shade match to the ginger shade. So let me put on some of this and see what you think. So Tiger is a color that I like even at full strength, but I do think if I blot it down a little bit, then I tend to like it even more. So I think that's pretty close to the ginger shade. And now I'll put the ginger shade back on the top of that. Now I think it's kind of an everyday shade. This actually is quite wearable for me. It's a little bit on the muted side even for me, but I do think it brings a little bit of color to my lips. And I think it is a little bit more muted than many of the other lipsticks that they are offering, and it's a little bit more muted than the lip oil is because it's not as shiny and it's not as saturated as the Antibes lip stick, but I think that it's very nice, and I can kind of see why it maybe wasn't their first priority to release. But I think especially for people who do like these peach shades, and I do like these peach shades a lot, I think you might be able to get a lot of use out of it. Now, unfortunately, the one that I got, it broke the first time that I used it at the base. So this had not really sat in my mailbox for very long, and it was only 70 degrees outside. So I think that it really just did not arrive in very good shape. And so I'm assuming that they will replace that for me. And I am hoping that this is just an odd problem and that it's not going to be the case with all the lipsticks in this batch. So when I look at some lipsticks from other companies that I have, the one that seems to be most relevant are the ones from Kosas. So last year, Kosas released a line of lipsticks that are called Wet Sticks, and there's a number of different shades, and they're all quite close in terms of color. And I have 3 of those, and so the one that I thought was almost an exact match in terms of both the undertone and the shade, and in terms of how dark it was, is called Papaya Treat. And so I have this lipstick here. I do think there's a difference because this lipstick is quite a bit shinier than the Merit lipstick, and I also think that I have not worn this one all that much, primarily because it does have some vanillin in it, and I'm able to tolerate vanillin, but I wouldn't say that I like it all that much, so that has kept me from using this on a regular basis. And so I have liked the color of this lipstick, and so I'm glad that the Merit formula has one, because I do like that formula in terms of how it tastes and feels on my lips a bit better than this Kosas one. And then also from Kosas, in terms of their regular lipstick line, they have a shade that is called High Cut, and that one is fairly close to the new ginger lipstick also. And then I swatched a few more lipsticks from some various companies. I think that this one is fairly close to the Lisa Eldridge Kitten Mischief that a lot of people like and a lot of people have. I think that's one of her more popular lipsticks. But I think that the Kitten Mischief is just a little bit more pink, and that this one is just a little bit more peach without that pinkishness to it. I think that this is also fairly similar to a Charlotte Tilbury shade that is called Nude Romance, and this must be one of their more popular shades because you can get it in this fancy refillable container. And I think this is a pretty shade, and I'm not all that crazy about either of the Charlotte Tilbury formulas, but I do think this has been a pretty color, and so again, I'm glad that this a similar color is available in this Merit formula. And I think that this Nude Romance is just a touch darker in terms of the saturation as well. And the Lisa Eldridge Kitten Mischief, that's a little bit more saturated too. The Merit shades are a little bit lighter in pigment than these kinds of lipsticks. Now, in terms of the Merit Company, this was founded, I think, in 2018, and the originator of the company was a woman named Catherine Power, and she is known as being a serial entrepreneur. So she previously started the line of skincare that is sold at like Target that is called Versed, and she started a fashion and beauty website that is called Who What Wear, and she has a line of wines that is called Aveline. And a couple of months ago, she stepped down as the CEO for the company and is now just the chairman. And the new CEO of the company is named Philippe Pinatel, and his most recent experiences was at MAC, and then he also worked for Birchbox, which I had never heard of before, and then also for Sephora, and then also for Guerlain. And so I don't know if things will be changing or not now that he is the CEO, but Catherine Power is still the chairman, so I think that things may not change real fast at any rate. And I think in terms of the products, I have been really, really happy with them. I think that the main focus for this company is busy millennials, and specifically they are saying that it is for busy moms. So that Catherine Power, I think, is in her early 40s, and she is a mom, and she does have a busy career. So she identifies a lot with that. So to a certain extent, these are women that are a lot younger than I am, and so they may not have as many issues with things like wrinkles or dry skin as I do. But on the other hand, I think that all of the products have worked really, really well for me. I don't think that they've been emphasizing my wrinkles. They haven't been causing me any problems at all. And I really do think that they have a really good ingredient list. It's pretty rare for me to find any company, whether or not they call themselves clean beauty or not, where I can tolerate all of the products and where none of them cause me irritation. And I do think that that has been the case for all of these products. And I do think that the ingredient list look pretty good for all of these products. The one thing that they do include in them that some people may have issues with is BHT, which is a fat preservative. And I would not really want to have a lipstick that I was using on a regular basis that has BHT in it because I don't really feel comfortable with taking that internally. But in terms of it being on my skin, that does not seem to be an ingredient that has irritated me. And I think that there is some reason to use an ingredient like this to keep products from going rancid as fast, particularly when you're using certain kinds of oils. And so far, with one exception, which I will talk about, I think that all of the Merit products have held up really well for me, even when I have been using them for 2 or more years. And so now I'll talk about all of the Merit products. So there really aren't very many of them. It is a very streamlined company. And so that is kind of appealing. And I will insert some footage of me putting on these products in the makeup look that I put on today. So the first one is called the Great Skin Instant Glow Serum. So this is a product that is kind of like a moisturizer that you put on at the beginning of the day. I tend to really just use this as being like a primer. So it gives me some nice hydration, and I think it does serve as a nice base for my putting on makeup. And this is a liquid, so you need to shake it like this, and then there's a pump here. And so what I do is I pump a couple of pumps into my hands, and then I rub my hands together, and then I will just pat it on my face, and then I will just let it dry. And this consists mostly of hyaluronic acid, several different kinds of hyaluronic acid, so that serves as a good hydrator, and I feel like my skin does work really, really well with hyaluronic acid, so I feel like this has been a really good product for me. It also has some niacinamide in it, and it has some caffeine in it, and the caffeine is supposed to be good for things like plumping and depuffing, and I think that my skin also works really well with caffeine. And so even though I'm not usually much of a toner type of a person, and I don't really like putting like water on my face, I'm glad that this is not a spray because I definitely don't like spraying things on my face. But I think that the texture of this has been really nice, and I think it has something to put on under especially casual makeup like the Merit makeup. I think that this has worked really, really well for me, and it certainly hasn't been irritating, and my skin does seem to like it a lot. And so next I'm going to deal with my eyebrows. And Merit just has one product that is an eyebrow product, and this is an eyebrow gel that is tinted, and so it comes in a few different shades. And I have their lightest shade, which is called Blonde. And I think that this has been fine for me. It's kind of a neutral ash blonde type color. And what I'm doing here, what I do with this is just to try to darken my brow hairs so that they look more like they are actual brows rather than just little peach fuzz hairs. So I do like this particular product, and I think that it has worked well for me, and I haven't ever had any problems with it, and it's lasted for quite a while. I've gone through a couple tubes of this. But I feel like in order to get a plausible brow look, I really need to use an eyebrow pencil as well as an eyebrow gel. And Merit does not make an eyebrow pencil, but I really don't have enough little brow hairs that even if I darken all of them really carefully, that they give me a cohesive and plausible brow look. So therefore, I'm also using a brow pencil. And the one that I'm using today is from Jane Iredale, and this one is in the color of Neutral Blonde, and this is called their Precision Pencil. So it has one of those little fine tips that is similar to the one from Anastasia Brow Wiz, but I like this one a bit better than the Anastasia one. So I put this brow pencil down first, and then when that is looking the way that I like it, then I put the brow gel on top of that. And if I do both of those things, I can usually do them pretty fast, and by the time I'm done, it actually looks a little bit like I have some real brows rather than no brows at all. And then in terms of complexion products, the only one that Merit offers is one that they are calling the Minimalist, and that one is a concealer stick. They're calling it a complexion stick, and they're saying that it will replace foundation and concealer. And I think that that's true, and that I do use this without using foundation with it. But I think that if you really can't use this like you would a foundation stick, I really don't think it's a good idea at all to try to use this over your entire face. I think it's really designed to use just on a spot basis to cover over issues, but to have a lot of skin showing. And I think for me it works really, really well like that. Now I think that more so than a lot of concealers, that you can use it fairly broadly on your face. So if I have areas that are like broader amounts of like whole areas that are red, I can just use it really fast over that whole area and then blend it in. And I think it does blend especially easily into my skin. And I think that it looks quite natural on my skin, and it doesn't look like it's something that I really need to use powder on top of at all. And I think it's been much better for me than an awfully lot of concealer sticks that are on the market. A lot of concealer sticks do require me to use powder, or a lot of them are a little too dry, and so they don't blend really well. And I think this one has a really good middle ground for that. And then the other good thing about this product is that I think that on a price per gram basis, this is a very good value. It gives you quite a lot of product, and it's not real expensive. And I think that one of these little sticks will last for quite a long time. Now, on the downside, one of the downsides is that some of these products, the piece of this does tend to fall out. So for instance, you can see here, this is falling out of the container, and I just have to be really careful when I use it, that when I open it, that I don't let it fall like this, because it will just come right out and fall on the floor. So that part is a little bit annoying, especially if it happens the first time that you use it. The other thing that I think is problematic for them is that they really don't have a very good shade range. So they only have, I think, 20 shades, and that's not very many to begin with. But I think it's also the case that they have not chosen the shades very well, and that they don't have a very good diversity of shades. So even though, there are a number of shades for lighter skin tones, I don't feel like any of them are really very good for me. And I have gone to Sephora over and over again trying to see if I have missed anything in terms of finding the perfect shade for me. And I think the real issue here is that, I have actually 3 shades from this company. And now that I look at them swatched all next to one another, they really all 3 look the same. So the shades that I have are Linen, which is supposed to be a light neutral color, and I have Cream, which I think is supposed to be a fair warm color, and then I have a Crew, which is supposed to be a light peach color, and I feel like all three of those are basically indistinguishable, both in terms of the swatches and in terms of looking at them, in the photographs, but also in the real world. They really seem to almost look exactly alike in terms of their being on my face or on my arm. And it's even, I could tell that's the case on the swatches that the company provided. But I thought when I looked at that picture that it was just bad lighting. But in this case, I think that that's actually the case. So they are wasting, in my opinion, a lot of their shade choices on shades that look exactly alike. And they are not including shades for people that have different skin tones, including people that have more olive skin tones, obviously, and also people that have very fair skin tones. And they don't really have too many that are pink. And when I did swatch the ones that were pink, they didn't really look right on me either. So I think that the good thing about this is that if I use a little bit of this on my skin and then I blend it in, that I think it looks fairly natural and that it does blend into the skin so beautifully because the formula is nice that I can get away with it. But I still don't feel like it's a great match, and I think that especially if I had really light skin, that probably there wouldn't be a good match for me. And I've read a lot of people suggesting that there's not a good match. But nonetheless, because this is such a blendable formula, I do think I can get away with it, and I think that my face looks fairly nice, and it's fairly close to my skin tone, even though I do have a fair amount of foundation on today. And so next, let's move on to eyeshadows. And Merit makes one line of eyeshadows, and these are called solo shadows. And so they are supposed to be really simple one-and-done type shadows, and they suggest that they are shadows like people used to use back in the 1990s. And I think that in general, Merit is going for sort of a 1990s aesthetic, which I find to be attractive myself. And I feel like I really kind of identify with the 1990s makeup, so I'm perfectly happy with that part. These come in these little cases, and they sort of remind me a little bit of MAC paint pots. So the lids you need to click on, and then there's just I think there's 8 different ones. So there's 4 browns, and then there's 4 that have some muted colors to them. So for instance, this is their darkest shade of brown. And these are designed to be applied with this brush, which is called the brush number 2. And I do suggest that if you are going to use these products, that you definitely get this brush. I think that this brush is really transforming in terms of being able to use it. So on one end of the brush, there is a bigger brush, and this is designed to put the shadow on as regular eyeshadow. And then on the other side, there's this teeny tiny little brush that's like a pencil brush. And this one, I think, has been really terrific in terms of my being able to use these shadows as like an eyeliner. And I've actually had quite a bit of problems with eyeliners over time, that a lot of eye pencils either don't perform well for me, they tend to get smudgy, they tend to not hold up very well, or a lot of them do irritate my eyes. And what I have found is that I think that all of these eyeshadows have worked really, really terrific for me as eyeliners, and particularly the darker shades. So for instance, today I used the darkest brown shade as an eyeliner, but I've also used the gray one. I think that's called Nelson, maybe. I've also used that one as an eyeliner, and I think that their blue shadow is like a navy blue, and that one works really, really nicely as an eyeliner also. They don't have a black one, but I would never use black as an eyeliner except if I was demonstrating it for a particular look. I think that's a little too harsh for my complexion most of the time, and so I don't mind, but I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for Merit to come out with a black one of these shadows just for people to use as an eyeliner, because it is really, really good, but you really have to have this brush, I think. Now, I'm not as crazy about the use of these shadows for the use in eyeshadows. I think that they work a little bit better as an eyeliner, but I did put on this color, which is called Mid-Century, as an eye shadow today, and I think that that worked really well too. I think I was a bit afraid that these were going to be dried up by now because it says that they have a 6-month usage life on there. And I don't think it's because they're anticipating that they will go bad in terms of microbial contamination. I think that the concern here is that this is the kind of formula that might get dried up, and that's why they put it in these containers that have clickable lids. But I have had these ever since they came out, which was maybe 9 months ago or so, almost a year ago, last summer. And I think that these seem fine so far. They have held up much better than I was fearing. So I'm happy about that part too. And I think that they look fairly nice as eyeshadows, and I think they do hold up fairly well. They're not my favorite eyeshadows, and I don't use them that often for that, but I do really, really like them as eyeliners. Now this mid-century color, I think this is a little bit on the reddish side for me, and I don't feel like reddish type of eyeshadows always look that great on me. I think that they tend to make me look like I'm a little bit, have irritated eyes or just not to look quite right. And I don't think that reddish brows look that great on me either. But I will say that when I put on the mascara, and this time I used black mascara from Merit, I think that after I put that mascara on, it looked a lot better. So that gave it a little bit more definition and it gave a little more structure to my eyes maybe, but I think that it looks okay once I put the mascara on. And so the Merit mascara, I actually do like it a lot. Unfortunately, they don't usually sell these little mini tubes. I just got this in one of their holiday sets. Usually they only sell the full-size mascara. And the thing about the full-size mascara for me is that after my eyes got an eye infection from using a mascara for less than 6 months, I concluded that what I really need to do is certainly not to start to use mascaras with more preservatives in them because that will irritate my very sensitive eyes, but rather just to try to switch out my mascaras every month or two. And so usually I am trying to find little minis, unless I'm trying something new that for this channel. I usually am just using little minis, and what I'm really happy about is that Caloray, which may be my favorite, one of my favorite mascaras anyway, they do offer minis, and so I am able to switch those out on a regular basis. So I've been really happy about that. I think that this Merit mascara is very, very similar to the Caloray mascara in terms of the performance. So it's a tubing mascara. It goes on really easily. I feel like it almost never makes any kind of a messiness situation when I'm putting it on. I think that the look that I get from it, at least if I put on just one coat, it goes on really easily. It looks fairly natural. It's more just darkening my lashes without causing them to be a lot longer or a lot thicker, and it comes off really easily. So tubing mascaras come off just with warm water, and so this has been really fine for my lashes, and I haven't had any irritation from it at all. And during the day, I do think it performs really well. So I don't think that I've seen flaking or smudging. And by the end of the day, I still see mascara in place. So all of these things are really terrific. And until a couple of years ago, there really weren't any mascaras that I really liked. So I'm really happy that this mascara and the Caloray one are both available. But I do think that the Caloray one is just more attractive to me because it is in that smaller container. Now, if the Merit mascara were available in a brown shade, then I very well might buy it on a regular basis and just pay the extra money because I do think that a brown mascara is usually what I prefer. But so far, they are not making it in a brown color, and Caloray is not making a brown one either. And then Merit also makes a line of bronzers. I think there are 5 shades, so I have the lightest shade, which is called Quince. And I think that this is a really easygoing bronzer. It has, I think it has kind of a translucent base to it so that it goes on very sheer. And this shade I think is a little bit on the yellowish side, so that made me kind of suspicious of it. But I think that once it gets on my skin, it's actually really kind of pretty. I tend not to use this as much as I use powder bronzers. I somehow feel like the powder bronzers are a little more comfortable for me, and I feel like more of the powder bronzers that I have found have had kind of peachy type of undertones to them that seems to work well on my skin. But I think that especially since this one looks kind of yellow when I swatch it heavily on my hand, I think it actually looks fine on my face. And so if you're a cream bronzer fan, then this would be one to take a look at. And then in terms of blush, Merit makes what they call Flush Balm. And so they are a stick type of a product. They're in this solid form. And they also are kind of a translucent base to them. So therefore they go on really easily, and I feel like I can really wear any of the shades because they're not real saturated and they do blend in really easily. So that is kind of nice. They kind of give me the feeling of something that's kind of like a Glossier cloud paints, and that they just blend in very, very nicely. And so no matter what color I'm wearing, I can generally make it work. So I can focus more on matching my clothing rather than being really restricted in terms of the colors that I've been able to use. So I do have several different colors. The most recent one that I got is this Fox shade, and this is what they're calling a warm taupe. And I feel like it's a little bit more on the muted side. It's not really bright, so I've been able to use that fairly broadly on my face. And so if I'm not using a bronzer in particular, I think that this one almost gives a little bit of a bronzy shade to my skin. And then the other one that I have right here that I use today is called Beverly Hills, and this one is more like a peachy pink, and it's a little bit brighter. And I think that's a very pretty color on me too, or just a pretty color in general. And then for this lip look, I kind of feel like, although I really like this color, I think it's nice if my lips have a little bit more structure because it is kind of such a muted shade. So for this, I did get out my beloved Mauve 1990 lip pencil. And the thing about this lip pencil, it's developed by Mauve Beauty and by Vic Caselli. And Vic Caselli was the formulator of the original Max Spice lip pencil. So he still had all the notes and all of the original color swatches for that. And Max Spice is a much different color than it was in the early 1990s. It's much more orange. And this one is much more of a cool neutral, and it really works with a variety of different lipsticks. And I've been really enjoying this one, so I decided to put this one on first and then to put the ginger shade over the top of it, and I think it worked really nicely. And I think that the ginger shade is perfectly fine on its own, but I do really like it with it over this lip pencil as well. And then again, I think that this lip oil from Merit, this is one of my favorite lip oils. I'm not a real big fan of lip gloss, and there's only a few that I really like a lot. But I think this one is very comfortable. I think it's not too messy. It's not too sticky. I think that the color is not too intense, but it's just a little bit brighter than the lipsticks. And I do really like this color, which is called Marrakesh. This is a soft peach, and I think that especially in this lip oil, it works really nice because it has a little bit of that shininess to it. And I do think that putting it on over the top of this particular lipstick works particularly well as in addition to that. So although I've used this quite a bit on its own, I think that in combination with the lipstick, it can be very nice. And then the only product from Merit that I really cannot recommend wholly without reservations is this highlighter. So the highlighter is actually a really pretty product. It goes on really nicely. I think that it compares favorably in terms of how it looks to a lot of my other favorite highlighters. But the problem with this one is that it has a really rancid smell to it, and that happens either as soon as the product is acquired or it happens really fast. So I did buy this as soon as it was released, and unfortunately within just a few months it started to have that really, really bad smell. And I don't feel like I'm all that sensitive to rancid ingredients, but in this case I think it's really, really problematic. And I actually have seen at least 6 other people who are on YouTube bring up that smell, and they all seem to be bringing it up fairly individually without knowing that other people were having issues with it. And when I've looked at the reviews for it, a lot of people have brought that up as well. Now, squalane is the first ingredient in this product, and the only time that I have ever smelled something like this has been in other products that have a lot of squalane in them. So that made me suspicious, and I asked Merit what kind of squalane they were using, and what they told me was that it was sunflower seed oil derived. And I think that that may explain a lot, because sunflower seed oil does turn rancid fairly easily, and this does not smell the same as other sunflower seed oil that I've smelled that has been rancid. It's been much, much worse, but I think that whatever process they used to make it into squalane, that has done something to it that has created in a product that's really kind of intolerable for me. So squalane can be made from olive oil. It can be made from genetically engineered microbes that are fermenting sugarcane, and I'm not sure how they transform regular sunflower seed oil into squalane, but whatever they do, I would like to avoid that kind of product. So I'm a little surprised that they haven't changed the ingredient list for this and fixed that problem. From what I can tell, they haven't. So since this has been released, I've gotten a couple more of these sticks in kits, and I have found that from the moment that I opened those up that they did smell really, really bad to me. So I don't think they fixed the problem, and they came out with a new shade of this over the summer, and obviously I'm not going to buy that shade even though it looked really pretty. So that is the one failure from this product company, and I do hope they fix it at some point, because I think it could be a nice highlighter if it didn't smell like that. So at least for the time being, the ginger lipstick is available only on the Merit website, and there is a $40 minimum for free shipping on that site. So I took a look at the sets that they're currently offering, and I think that one possibility would be the color set, which would include a lipstick and then one of the flush balms. Or if you want to try what I think are a number of Merit's best products, then I would suggest the polish set, which includes a foundation stick and a brush to buff that into the skin, and I do think that their brush is very nice, and a mascara, and then also the lipstick and a flush balm. And so now I'm going to insert the footage with all of the lipstick shades being tried on my lips.
Trying to figure you out, I just wanna make you smile. Hold your hand in my hand, looking at the sunset. Man, you're looking good tonight. I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can hear my calling. There's no one else here that I see but you. It's what you're doing. Wheels in motion, I'm going crazy for you. I feel like the ocean. I can see you want this too, 'cause you've been looking at me all night, trying to figure me out. I just wanna let you know, and I ain't playing no games, baby, you won't change. I only want you. I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, it's making me feel like I'm falling. Kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing. you're doing that's making me feel like I'm falling. Yeah, I'm falling in love. Yeah, I'm falling in love. Yeah, I'm falling in jump into the car on a Friday night. I wanna drive with you. Looking for a bar in the nearest town. I've never seen a sky so blue. We don't have a plan and the night is young. It doesn't matter what we do. There ain't nobody like. There ain't nobody like. You look so beautiful. And I'm so lucky to be yours. And you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. I'm not coming down. Ain't nobody like you. I could go 1,000 miles as long as I'm with you. Yeah, you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. Talking about yourself and you make me smile. I can listen all night long. I tell you about the time when I first met you, listening to our favorite song. Walking on the street when you caught my eye, something about the way you move. No, there ain't nobody like. There ain't nobody like. So lucky to be yours. And you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. I'm not coming down. Ain't nobody like you. I could go 1,000 miles as long as I'm with you. Yeah, you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. 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 Jump into the car on a Friday night. I wanna drive with you. Looking for a bar in the nearest town. I've never seen a sky so blue. And you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. I'm not coming down. Ain't nobody like you. I could go 1,000 miles as long as I'm with you. Yeah, you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. Ain't nobody like you. Ain't nobody like you.
So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if you have any experience with Merit products, then please let me know what you have thought of them. Or if you are interested in any of these products, then please let me know, for instance, what shade of lipstick is the best and which one you think would work better for you. And in addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And Coco and I love you very much. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
La ba da la la